Hi, this is Professor Evans. This video is for the students in COP 3330C, which is Object-Oriented Programming at Valencia College in Orlando, Florida. This video is going to cover generics using Java and IntelliJ. The learning outcome for this video is that students will learn how to create simple generic classes that demonstrate the use of collections classes. So in our previous module, we covered collections and some of the functionality that we can do with the Java Collections framework. We're going to implement some of that knowledge in today's example of creating generic classes. As a reminder, this tutorial is supposed to go along with the other resources that are provided online. Please make sure you're reading through those articles, tutorials, or whatever it may be that has been posted, and then use this as a supplement or an application to what you're reading. Please open up your IDE and follow along with me, and this example that we're going to do today will get you started on your programming project. However, you will have to expand upon it and do some research in order to do that. So let's start with our definitions. What are generics? So generics in Java is a language feature that allows for type-safe operations by enabling classes, interfaces, and methods to operate on objects of various types. Keyword here, various types. So imagine that you could create a class, an interface, and or a method that can operate on an object of more than one type. That is the idea of generics. And this feature comes with compile time type checking, meaning you will get a compiler error letting you know if your types don't match for some reason. They provide a way to abstract over types, which makes it possible to create code that can work with any data type. Again, that means thinking about objects that deal with strings, floats, doubles, or creating your own object that has its own set of attributes and methods. Imagine that you can have a system that allows you to operate on an object of multiple data types. That's the idea behind generics. Generics remove the need for typecasting and allow for the detection of type mismatches at compile time. And it just prevents potential runtime errors or things that would make your program crash. So another way to think about generics, imagine that you have a generic container and you want to put objects inside the container, and no matter what object you want to put in, you want the same behavior to happen. So I want to perform the same set of behaviors or the same set of methods on whatever goes into the box, whether it's an apple, a calculator, a pencil, a dice, a book. We want to be able to perform the same set of behaviors no matter what goes in the box. The box is our generic container. And that's the idea of generics. So I'm going to jump right into the example today. And in this example, we'll demonstrate the use of generics by basically walking through these three steps. We're going to start by creating three unique classes. Each one has its own set of attributes. And then we're going to create a generics container. And it contains the methods that can be performed on an object of any of the three classes. Excuse my typo on the word container here. And then we're going to create a generics demo app that will demonstrate how the methods can operate on multiple types of objects. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into IntelliJ and we're going to get started. So for my example today, I have chosen to use the inspiration of Parks and Rec. It's a TV show that was very popular a few years ago. If you have not seen the show, that's okay. You don't have to have seen the show to understand what we're doing here, but I'm going to use the inspiration of the show Parks and Rec, and I'm going to create sort of like a library of attributes about the show. So in my example, I'm going to catalog the characters, the episodes, and the locations that were present in the show. So the characters, episodes, and locations are going to be the inspiration for my three unique objects that I'm going to pass into my generics container. So I'm going to start by defining the character object. So within my character object, I'm going to have a name. So I'm going to record the name of the character. I'm going to record the department that they worked in within the context of the show. And I'm going to add their badge number so that I have some mixed attributes that I'm collecting here. 2 strings and an integer. Next, I'm going to write my constructor. Okay, constructor done. And then I'm going to let IntelliJ create my get and set methods. So you can see it suggests them for you, and just double click on it. You've got your get methods and set methods this way. Let's see, that one didn't show up. If I backspace, oops, there it was. There's get department. It didn't find that one for me, but that's okay. All right, so these are my get and set methods. And then I'm going to add a toString method so that I can print out information about the object. I can also let IntelliJ do this for me. By clicking Generate via Wizard, you can select the attributes you want to be included in your toString method, and it creates your toString method for you. So there's my first class. I'm going to repeat this for location and for episodes, but I'm going to have different attributes for each of those. So there's a lot of upfront work here to define your 3 classes and their attributes. So the next one is going to be episodes. For episode, I'm going to have title, runtime, and the summary for each episode. And I'm just going to repeat the same process by making the constructor, then my getters and setters. You may not always know if you're going to need your get and sets, but it's better to just have them ready to go than to have to come back and add them in later. And then we're going to add that toString method. And we're going to let the wizard generate it for us. And we're done with episode. One more to go, and then we'll see how we're going to use these 3 different classes to create 3 different objects that can be passed into our generics container, and then we can perform operations on them, regardless of the fact that they have different types. So my last class is location. So I want to track the name of the location. The location's number of miles from City Hall. If you've never seen the show is about the Parks and Recreation Department for a small town in Indiana called Pawnee, and they work out of City Hall. And then let's assume that we're going to have community events at these locations. Maybe there's a party in the park or a parade or something like that. So we want to have the name of the community event. So now we're going to just repeat this one last time with our constructor, getter and setters, and our toString method. All right, constructor's done. And then our toString method. Okay, 3 classes have been created. Now let's design our generics container. That container is going to accept a generic object and then be able to perform a series of operations on that generic object. So I'm going to create a 4th class called generics container. Now I need to indicate that this class is going to be able to interface with objects of any type or generic type. So I'm going to indicate that by adding this to my declaration for that class. Anytime you see this, it lets you know that you're now dealing with generics. So the first thing I'm going to do is create an attribute. I'm going to create a list of a generic type. I'm going to call it items. I'm going to need to import that. So now that I've imported java.util.list, I can continue with my constructor. So the idea here is that we are going to create a list of objects. The type of the object depends on what I'm passing in at that time. I might want to create a list of characters. I might want to create a list of episodes. I might want to create a list of locations. this one generics container will allow me to do all of that. So my constructor is just going to set up the new list. So I'm going to have a generics container as my constructor right here. And inside the constructor, I'm just going to say that items is equal to a new array list. Now we're dealing with collections. So once we've taken our object and created a list of that object's type, we now want to be able to add, remove, sort, or whatever. We want to perform those same types of collections operations from the collections framework on our list that is of a generic type. So let's say we want to add some items to the list. We don't know whether I'm going to be adding characters, episodes, or locations. So rather than give it a type, I'm going to leave it generic. But I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to say item. And whenever I'm passed an object, I'm going to add that item, whatever type it may be, to the list that I've created. So this is where your prior knowledge about collections comes into place. So I'm going to add a toString. Oh, forgot my override here. And for now, that's all I'm going to give you here. When you write your code for your programming project, you're going to need a lot more functionality in here. Please make sure you read the directions for what else your generics container should be able to do. For now, I'm defining two functions, add and toString. So now I'm going to create my application to demonstrate how the container works. All right, so I'm going to start by creating a container for characters, locations, and episodes. I'm just going to name the first one characters. So what I'm doing here is creating a generics container that can accept an object of multiple types. This is the definition of generics right here. So generics container is built so that it can take an object that is of type character, of type location, of type episode. We can pass in multiple data types to our generics container and then be able to perform any of the operations within the container on that object, even though they all have different types. So now let's create a new character. Leslie Knope was the main character of the show, if you have not seen it. She worked in the parks department. And I don't know if they had badge IDs on the show. I'm just going to make one up. Next, let's create a location. So JJ's Diner was a popular location on the show. And let's say that there's a community event happening at JJ's Diner. Little Sebastian's Memorial Breakfast. Again, these are all references to the show if you're wondering why I'm picking the types of names that I am. Let's pick an episode. One of my favorite episodes from this show are the episodes that have to deal with Ron and Tammy. So let's create a new episode. Specifically, I like Ron and Tammy Part 2. So I'll give it that name. Say the runtime is 23 minutes. And the summary, Ron and Tammy reconnect for a second time, resulting in a midnight wedding and a trip to jail. All right, so we have our episode summary right there. Next, we are going to use the generics container, perform same action, add on different objects. So we're going to say characters.add Leslie, locations.add JJ's Diner, and episodes.add Ron and Tammy. So we have one method called add, and we're adding to each of our lists that we're creating through the generics container. So instead of having to have a add method for the episode object and an add method for the location object and then another add method for the character object, we have one add method within our generics container that allows us to pass in objects of different types and then perform the same action on any of those objects of different types. So that's what we have being displayed right here so far. Now let's go ahead and print. So we're going to print the characters. We're going to print the locations. And the episodes. All right, so we can see that we have a character named Leslie Note who works in the Parks Department. There's her badge number. We have a location, and we have an episode. Now let's say that I wanted to add a few more objects. I'm just going to copy and paste these in here. So I'm going to create another character named Ron Swanson, also one of the key characters of the show. Another character, Shauna Malway-Tweep, who is a news reporter, and then a second location, which is one of the murals in City Hall. And we're going to create these characters and locations. We then need to add each one of them to the list. and then we're going to print everything out again. So our first 3 lines are from the first print statement where we added 1 character, 1 location, 1 episode. Then our second 3 lines are when we added multiples. So we can see that character now contains Leslie Knope, Shauna Malwae-Tweep, and Ron Swanson. We can see our location contains JJ's Diner and the Wildflower Mural. And then our episodes just has the 1 episode. So the next challenge for you will be to write your programming project and then add an additional functionality. You're going to need to sort. You're going to need to shuffle and things of that nature. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. This is just to get you started. When you actually start your programming project, these are the things you'll have to do for your generics container. Add, remove, retrieve based on index. So locate the 3rd object in the list or locate the 5th object in the list. Determine the size of your list. So once I've added 10 characters, be able to print out the size and let me know that I have 10 characters. Be able to sort the list, be able to print the list. So you will have to perform additional research in order to add this increased functionality, especially to implement sorting. You will want to research the comparable class. I'll give you a little starting point. You'll want to research that and figure out how you need to implement it here. And you will use your own favorite TV or movie inspiration in order to get started for this programming project. So I chose Parks and Rec. You pick any TV show or movie that you really like. Think of 3 classes that you can make based off of that movie or TV show. And then create those 3 unique classes, and they should have different attributes and a mix of data types. And then you're going to create your generics container, and you're going to add all of the functionality shown here. And then you're going to write a demo app to just show that it works. And that will be your programming project for this module. As always, if you have questions, please reach out to me. Please email me. I'm always happy to help. I'm here to support you. I'm here to provide meetings if needed. I'm here to give you feedback on your past projects. Anything that you need that I can assist with, I'm happy to do that. So just shoot me an email or a campus message and I will definitely help out. So thank you for watching, and until next time.